Okay, so so I was given this awful title to talk about all the mistakes I've made, which I thought was a really positive way to end up in the last 4 months at the university. So I have included a bit of that, but I did want to reflect a little bit on leadership and what I think about leadership. And I don't know, this might interest you or not, but anyway, we work through. So here's some of my thoughts in no particular order on leadership. So the first thing is, I think leadership is a verb. It's a doing thing. It's a doing word. You've got to be doing it all the time, and you can't be a leader, I think, and be passive. That's the first thing about it, all the time. And I think if you are in a leadership position, and be that the vice chancellor of a university, or managing a trainee, one trainee in the university, or being the Prime Minister of Australia, whoever that might be at the moment, I'm not sure. You're leading, and it's action right away. People watch leaders. We all watch our leaders. I do it, you do it. So you've got to always remember that you're always leading. And I remember reading one of those things saying that everything you do as a leader, you change the culture of the place in some respect. And really, the decision, you can't change that. But what you can change, are you changing the culture for the good or for the bad? And that always struck me as really important. And sometimes I don't always behave how I'd like to behave, and I think, oh, that wasn't good because I changed the culture there the wrong way. So look, this is probably what I think about, what leadership is. And I do feel a bit embarrassed having Kate Ames here, who's a leader in the army and probably has done lots more thinking on this and will probably shoot me or something. But anyway, this is my view. So it's first having, if you're going to be a leader, you've got to have somewhere to lead to. You've got to have a destination. You can't be a leader and just be kind of just wandering around aimlessly. So, you've got to have a mountain to climb. And I've been saying this quite a lot with the executive group. You've got to have a mountain to climb. And when I stood actually in this theatre, it's about 9.5 years ago, and talked about where we were going to go with the university, it was really painting a picture of a destination which was a mountain to climb, which was to be a great university. And that was the mountain we needed to climb. And unless you pick your mountain and where you're going to go, then I can't see how you can lead unless you're leading people somewhere. You've got to have a route to get there. So it's no good just saying, that's the destination, that's where we're going to be a great university, but then have no way of getting there. You've got to show people. And I think for us 10 years ago, that was the renewal plan. So this is where we want to be. We want to be a great university, and here's a plan to get there. Here's a map, if you like. If we're going to go and climb that mountain, here's a map of how to get there. Here's the route. Also, how are we going to get there? How are we going to do this? Are we going to be, what are we going to be doing while we're climbing this mountain? And I think that's where the values came in for the university, and there were going to be a certain set of values to climb this mountain. And if you've done any mountaineering, there's lots of ethics in mountaineering. I mean, in France, anyone from France? Well, the French don't have a lot of ethics, so when they go to climb a mountain, they just drill loads of holes in it all the way up, and they put these things in so you can clip your carabiners into them. The British, who obviously have lots of ethics, don't go in for that. We go for true climbing, and we don't drill holes into our mountains. And really, this wasn't me. This came a little bit later when Alistair and Barbara joined us and actually talked a lot about this, bringing, the values in. Getting together what we needed. It's no good just to say we're going to climb that mountain if we haven't got any ropes or we haven't got anything. So I think leadership is also about gathering resources together so we could go on that journey. And then incredibly important is putting together a band of brothers and sisters. And I think this is probably an analogy that I have taken from the military, that idea of a band of brothers. And Kate might correct me on this, but I think a lot of times when you look at soldiers and you find out what a lot of their motivations for fighting are actually in action, it's actually about fighting for their band of brothers, the people they're fighting with. Obviously it's for their country and their families and all of that stuff. And I think that was really important to me. It was about bringing together a group of people that I could be really close with on this journey, and I'm talking about the immediate group, but the university as a whole. So it's about bringing the people together and the right people to go on this journey up the hill. So for me, that's leadership, really. And I like looking at other people. So I was really interested in the American election, where you had Donald Trump actually standing there saying exactly the same as I was saying 10 years ago. Make the university great, make America great. And, you know, greatness, it's what you define it, and it is a destination. And I thought he was very good at getting that over, and people wanted that. They wanted to go somewhere else, and this great America was somewhere we can get behind and go. I think where he failed, he really didn't have a route to get there. There was no route. There was no plan of how to make America great. And on the other side, you had Hillary Clinton, who actually had a fantastic route map and knew all the processes and knew how government worked and could talk about how government was going to work. But really, there was no dream at the end of it. There was no vision. So I think one candidate had stage 2 and one had stage 1, and I found that interesting at the time. So some reflections on leadership, and it's sort of, I guess, what's been important to me is integrity, authenticity. Look, I don't come from a background that most radiographers, that most vice chancellors come from. In fact, I don't come from a background that most radiographers come from. You know, I come from, if you ask me what my father did for a living, I can't tell you because he just did everything. He worked in a shoe factory, he worked in an aluminium factory, he was a milkman, he put up garages. He just went and did many jobs to look after his family. Wherever the money was best, he would go because that was best for the family. But really, you know, an electrician or a tradesperson in my family was almost, we had one cousin that was a carpenter, and he was like aristocracy because he'd actually gone and trained to do something. So it would be no good for me to come along and try and give a voice of what which wasn't authentic. I've got to come from that background and talk from that background. I can't pretend, that I'm like, I was at the Vice-Chancellor's meeting yesterday. Many of them come from much more traditional backgrounds. I can't pretend to be like them because I'm not. So authenticity, I think, is important. And if you're not authentic, I think people see through it straight away. And openness, I mean, hopefully I've always been open and shared with you the good news, but also the bad news. And when we had problems in 2013, I think one week we did 3 forums in 1 week, which were packed out because we wanted to get information out. So that openness has always been very important to me. Getting that band of brothers, and now I'm using brothers and sisters around me has been important, and that's been quite a long journey. But getting the right people, and I'd say that is so important. You can't lead without really leading the right people, and I've been so lucky with the people that I work closely with, the executive. If you said, what have you done while you've been at the university? I haven't done an awful lot, but maybe the one thing I have done is brought the right people together that can actually go out and do the right things. Also, I just want to mention a close team. You need an actual close team around you, a team that really are going to see you through the dark times, people that, really... you can trust 100%, which I do, the executive. But, this is the team, Mel, Carol, Martin Elms, Joe, who's gone on to other things. Well, Martin's gone on to other things. And, Heather Andrews should be up there as well. people that just support you, and even, when you're being a prick, they watching your back, and they're being, you just know that they're going to work for you. So that very close team has been really important to me, and people that I can go and be really open with. So that's, for me, part of the leadership. Actually, reflection. Barbara, that's Barbara. She put that list of things on the things. She said, "I've thought what's important to you as a leader, and these are the things. Do you agree?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I read it after that, and it said, "Reflect." I don't think I've reflected at all, really. I'm not sure I'm a very reflective person, am I?
Yes, you are.
Am I? Okay, I reflect. Reflection is a very important part of leadership. I've reflected on this and decided that I do reflect a lot. Well, maybe we'll come back to that one. Okay. Look, inclusiveness has been incredibly important to me, and I'm so grateful it's one of the values. But to try and take people on the journey and be inclusive, and just sort of, one of our aims is to be inclusive as a university, but really with that band of brothers and sisters, it's about being inclusive there. And I think one thing I didn't put on here, and I should have, it's that thing, leadership for me is also about following. So it's also, if everyone in this university is going to be a leader, everyone's got to be a follower. And, if the people, the grounds people or the cleaners or anybody comes up with really good ideas, you need to get behind them and support them and follow them, not just take over the leadership role as well. So we should include everyone as leaders. Culture, I remember the first day I walked through the university and Jenny Roberts was here. And I said, I've been reflecting, Jenny, on my first few days, because I am a very reflective person. And said, I want a few things. I want to, by the end of the year, and I started in August, I said, I want a kids' party. When my dad was working in those factories I told you about, there was always a Christmas party in the factory, and it was one of the big things for the kids every year. And some of my fondest memories are going to those kids' parties. And I thought, I want to give that to the kids that, have parents working here. So I want a kids' party, I want a university ball, and I want a senior leaders conference. And again, that incredible team actually pulled that all together. I don't think that would have been, no, that wouldn't have been anywhere near the first one. But the first university ball, I think we got 120 people there, and we made all the table, at lunchtimes we're making table decoration stuff, and it was fantastic. It's really wanted to bring a culture that this is a fun place to work, and that's an important part of, I like having a lot of fun at work. I like laughing a lot at work. And I want that idea of, what we're doing is very serious. That transformation stuff is serious, but let's not be too serious about ourselves and let's have fun. So having that kind of culture was really important. And, culture goes a lot deeper than just having fun, but being respectful of people. And that thing of people always watching you, I know if I don't treat someone well and I don't speak to them in a way which is respectful, then I change the culture, because then it becomes, that is the way we do things around here. So I can tell you the way that I talk and interact with the executive, I never interact with, say, a Huel 5 or a lecturer, because, we lay into each other. We basically kick the shit out of each other, both ways. But if you did that with people that were sort of, don't know, and I'm probably not saying this very well, but, you've got to really respect people at all levels in the organisation, and probably how you interact with people is differently. And how you interact with your peers isn't going to be the way you should be. I'm saying this all wrong. You should treat people, when they're starting on their journey and they're down here in the structure, we should be treating those people a lot better than we would treat our peers. That is so wrong. Sorry, Barbara. Look, This is another one of Barbara's that she got wrong. She's put something up there about that 28, you know. She's quite right. That's what we should be doing. You know, there's... what does it mean?
Pareto principle.
What?
So the Pareto principle.
Yeah, what does that...
So you should be focused 80% of the time on the good things.
Yeah.
Rather than on the really good stuff, rather than focusing all of your energy on the bad stuff.
Yeah, I focus all my energy on the bad stuff. And I was actually talking to some other vice-chancellors yesterday on the plane coming home from Perth, and we were all saying that. You just get distracted by this stuff. Really, it's something we should try and avoid, but the unimportant stuff, you do tend to get drawn into it. I wish I could do this. I wish I could work out, look, that's really not that important. But it's that kind of stuff that does drag you in, and I guess we might talk about that one. This one I do believe, the 70-30%, and you know, what we've said is that we want failure in the university, because if we don't have failure, we're not getting enough success. So we've put this up that we more or less say that out of every 100 things we do, 30 of them won't be any good. So 30 of them will go wrong. We will lose money on 30% of what we do because we have to take risks to be successful. And really, if everything we did was successful, it probably means we're not trying enough. We're only trying the easy stuff. So we should get things wrong, and we do get things wrong. So, and that's a difficult one, because when things go wrong, I think as a leader, you've also got to, you know, support people through that. Obviously, if I'm getting 100% of stuff wrong, then they're going to sack me, or we're going to sack that person. But you should be able to tolerate failures and actually celebrate some of the failures as well. We sometimes get it wrong. Grant's not here, is he? Good. Grant always gets into me because he reckons I don't tolerate too much with him. Right, okay, so now I did get onto mistakes. Okay, here's some mistakes. So here's, this is reflecting on the thing. Here are 4 of the mistakes I've made. Are any of them here? Helen? Okay, I came in, and I think you come into a university, and I think you have a bit of a bias against the university you came in, particularly when, you know, there were some problems with the university when I came in, and you assume that maybe you haven't got good people. So you go out and you try and recruit loads of people from outside, and you see this right across the sector. Now 10 years later, I actually realised there were so many great people, and are so many great people in this university, and I should have been looking more internally. So I put these 4 up because I don't know if you remember, but maybe a year or so after I got here, I went out and basically I think recruited 8 new heads of school. We're going to really get some energy in the place. We're going for 8 new heads of school. 10 new heads of school. And we did, and some of those were very successful. Grant Stanley, Andy Bridges came in on they were 2 of the 10. Where are the other 8? Well, they're not working for the university anymore, and I'm not going to say too much about that, but they're not working for the university. But if I'd have just taken stock a little bit at that stage and looked at what we had, the riches, you know, I would have found Lee D'Amelia, Cole Greensill, Helen Huntley, Bill Blaney, you know, in there. And I think that's something that, you know, I'll be reminding the new VC when he comes in that he's going to be surrounded by really good people. Don't get seduced that if it's outside the university, it must be good. So I think that's a mistake that I made. Look, one of the ways I run the university, I've talked about a lot of that band of brothers and having a very close group around me. The people that I work with closest are friends. You know, they are really close friends, and they hate me saying this, but they're people that I actually love. And I am using the word love as love. You know, I don't love them the same as I love Anita. Well, maybe Alistair a little bit. But so I'm really close to that group, and I find that is a fantastic way. And you know, I think you should be open to people, and you should be willing to make close relationships with the people you work with. But it becomes really, really hard when you get people that are not performing, people that really are damaging the university. You are absolutely torn then, because you can see that those people are not really working, but they are your friends and you've got real loyalty to them. And I know, you know, I'm not going to mention names or anything, but I know there are cases, more than one case, where I've stuck with someone because of that friendship and loyalty, whereas really from a university perspective, we really should have said, look, you're not really doing a very good job here and it's probably time to move on. So I think that is a mistake, and it will probably, you know, if I had the time again, it would probably be a mistake I'd make again. Because also, you know, loyalty to that group you work with, because everybody gets it wrong. God, you know, we're just saying we all get it wrong, you know, and you have to have loyalty to the people you work, but sometimes perhaps you can have, I can tend to be a bit over loyal. Worrying, I mean, mistakes, worrying. I mean, Anita's seen this, you know, I've had lots of sleepless nights, literally sleepless nights, and often worrying about things that aren't that important. You know, worrying about what the Australian is saying about us, worrying about what the comments in the Australian say about us, you know, those kind of things. I think, yeah, I've probably worried too much. Alistair's always given me really good advice on that, and I'm not sure I've matured to the level of where Alistair is, or even where he was when he came into the organisation, to be able to get things into perspective, and particularly with the newspapers. What's your phrase? Fish and chip wrappers, you know. So I'll have been up all night worrying about something in the Australian, and you know, really worried about it, and Alistair saying fish and chip wrappers, you know. And I remember when we did get into financial trouble in 2012, and Anita will remember this. For about 2 weeks I didn't sleep. I'd go to bed, I'd fall asleep for about an hour, then wide awake and just start worrying and worrying and worrying. And then one night I kind of woke up and I started worrying again, and it just came over me. This isn't doing anything. Laying here worrying about things. You've got to get back to leadership is a verb. It's an active word. You've got to do something. So I think it was about 2 a.m. I got up, I went to the study, and I sat and wrote the, not the renewal plan, recovery plan. Wrote the recovery plan, and then got in the next morning, called the exec and said, look, have a look at this and see what you think. If we do this, will we get out of this hole? I mean, remember, we did at one stage get down to 2 pays in the bank. We only had enough money to pay people for another month. That's how it got really tight there. But it was amazing. As soon as I moved from worrying to doing, everything started to come together, and suddenly I started to, feel much better. So I'd say, it's so easy to say don't worry, isn't it? It's almost impossible not to worry, but I think that's been a big mistake I've made. Spargate. That's me and Anita when I had hair. That was before all the worry of Spargate. So what happened, who was here during Spargate? Oh God. Okay, so we had a really nice house in Cairns. We had a nice swimming pool, a very comfortable life up there. We moved down, we moved into the house in the university grounds. And the house is really nice, but I mean, it's nothing that special, and we couldn't have a swimming pool. So what we did, sorry, I'm putting the blame on you, but what I did, I said, oh God, it's horrible not having a pool or anything. Why don't we get a spa, like that one, put it in the house, and we've got somewhere to cool off, and that's it. Where I got it wrong, is I said, we rent the house, so we pay like a commercial rent, the normal going rate. Why don't I go to the university, get them to put a spa in, and if they want to put the rent up for that, we just pay a bit of extra rent, and they can do it like that. And that's what happened. It was also at a time when there were some of the 10, do you remember the 10 we spoke about? Some of the 10 we were actually moving on at that stage. So there were some people that were quite antagonistic to the university. And they kind of leaked all this to the press. And it was suddenly that the Vice-Chancellor was having a 10-man spa installed. It was going to cost the university millions of dollars and and it was on the front page of the paper and it was on the radar and everything. And I think even at a forum I was trying to explain all this, and it all got a bit silly. In the end, we did put the spa in, but we paid for it ourselves, and that's the kind of lesson from that. What was the mistake there? The mistake was that we didn't think what that would have looked like. And it's that thing that as leaders, everyone is watching you all the time and everyone will be critical. And perhaps they had every right to be critical. What we should have just done is bought the bloody thing and put it in like we did in the end, but we didn't. We said to the uni, can you provide this? And then we'll pay some extra rent. Now, and it wasn't a good look. So it's that thing about getting back to integrity. I mean, maybe that was, it was a time when I could have had more integrity, I'm not sure. But anyway, I could have been seen to have more integrity. So that's a really important thing. But it was interesting. In the end, it did become quite fun, because I remember doing one TV thing and they said, is it true you're having a 10-man spa put into the house? And I said, I can guarantee there will only ever be one man in that spa. Anyway, but it's worth talking about. This one, when you just feel someone comes up with a proposal or something's happening and you just no, it's wrong. You just get this gut feel, it's instinctive. Even if there's a really good business plan actually spelling out why we should do this, but something in you says this is wrong, and you go with it. And I've done that a couple of times. When I first started, when we had CMS, they came up with some way of marketing, giving away free iPads or something. And I just felt this is wrong and it's going to look wrong. But anyway, I went along with it, and that ended up in the Australian. That ended up with us being called, what was it? What they called? Bottom feeders. Bottom feeders, having to give everyone a set of steak knives to come and do a degree here. And I kind of knew it was wrong when I said, yeah, okay, if that's what you think. And I can give you other examples. So normally, if you really got those values and if something feels wrong, then it normally is wrong. On the other hand, other things can feel really good and really right, and you haven't got a business case for them, Narelle. And sometimes you just have to take a risk if it feels good. So sometimes you just got to go with your gut reaction. I remember an old Vice-Chancellor I used to work for, Bernard Malden. He was looking at the student mentorship program up at JCU, and there were some people, probably finance bean counters, were really against it. And they said, where's the evidence for this, Vice-Chancellor? Why would we do this? And I always remember, because I was there, he looked and he said, some things in life you don't really need evidence for, like motherhood and apple pie. You just know it's good. So, and that's how I feel about today about marine research centres, Narelle. Okay, so, was that my phone? No. Oh, I've got 12 seconds left. Okay, so gut feeling is important. Look, leadership, I was just going to finish off and say this is my incredible team, and they are an incredible team. And I'd have to... that's good. Okay, I'm finishing. And I'd have to say that they all lead in different ways. You know, you can't say there is uniform leadership in there, and I definitely haven't gone around looking for everybody that's the same kind of leadership. So, you know, someone like Grant Stanley up there, he's not here, so we can talk about him. You know, he leads in a completely different way, but a fantastically successful dean of a school. You know, respected by the people that worked for him in the school, respected, I think, by the leaders of the university, respected by other sections. He is a real class act, and now doing incredible things in research. But really, in his style of leadership, I guess he couldn't be more different to me. But he is a fantastic leader, and I could go around them all. They've all got their own styles, but all fantastic leaders. So, you know, to be a leader, you don't have to put a funny suit on at the Christmas ball. You know, you can lead in your own way. It's back to that authenticity. You've got to be, or give the authentic voice, so don't try and pretend to be. And I'm sure if I tried to be like Grant, I'd fail miserably, and I think if Grant tried to lead in the way I do, he'd fail miserably. I think that's why I wanted to say that. I'm going to stop there.